Hey everyone, Greg here. As you may know by now, I'm the co-founder and CEO of TripShock, an online reseller for water sports and tours. For the past 12 years, we've had the pleasure of working with hundreds of operators across the country, and we're looking to grow our community. It's free to sign up, and you only pay when we bring you confirmed bookings. We'll help you reach new customers, fill empty seats, and grow your business like so many have done with us over the years. Head over to partners.tripshock.com to learn more about our program, read testimonials, or speak directly with our supply team. As always, thank you for listening and enjoy the show.
All right, get it recorded. Yeah, because do people do that all the time, man? Do they fuck your name up and call you Peter Syme?
People fuck me up all the time, just calling me everything. Normally really bad words. So you'll be in good company.
Listen, you got so many fucking books back there, man. Is that like a leaders or readers thing, or do you just fucking keep all those back there for show?
No, I didn't go to school, so I had to read to catch up because I didn't go to school, so it was all a big catch-up.
Going to school?
Yeah, missed that bit out.
Oh, man, wow. What are you, about 60 years old? What fucking school you go to, man?
No, I left when I was 6, but I left when I was very young.
You're like the fucking Doogie Howser of Scotland. He's real young, man. He's like 13, guys. That's why you don't let the deep Scottish voice fool you. He's like real young. That's why I'm so shocked he's back in school.
I wish I was real young. I really do.
Hey, you're handsome though, and you're smart. So whatever you make up for in your age, man, you make up for in wisdom and great looks, my friend.
Yeah, how do you get wisdom though? By messing things up a lot.
Yeah, isn't that right, man? So tell us, Peter, what, man? Like, let's get an intro from you. What is exactly that you do, my friend?
Well, I started guiding way back in 1984, but not commercially. I was in the military at the time, and they were crazy enough to pay me to take a couple of years off and guide people in the mountains. So between 84 and 86, I guided virtually every day of those 2 years, either kayak guiding, mountaineering guiding, climbing guiding. And that's probably what gave me the taste for the second.
So really quick, Can we like extrapolate a little bit out of that? Because for a lot of the listeners here in the States, many of them may not be world travelers. Like I myself have never been on a guided hike through the mountains. Like how long is this a multi-day hike? These rafting trips, are they multi-day or are they single day?
Both. When I started out, it was mainly teaching single day trips, and then we progressed to short trips, 2-3 days, then progressed to 2-3 weeks, then progressed to 2-3 months. So it's a kind of ladder effect. Once you get into day tours, many operators, not all by any means, but many operators make a logical step to then expand into multi-day, and multi-day can be incredibly profitable if you get it right. It can also be incredibly annoying if you get it wrong. So both day tours and multi-day.
So I want to have a follow-up question to this because I just want to get a little bit of a sense, right? So in water sports, we're kind of like, we're talking from a very niche perspective, what tour means, what rental means, what tourism means in our sector. So I had this conversation at Arrival and we were talking about OTAs. So OTAs overseas, you guys play a much different role. Now, it's because of it's like the actual cost per click on Google for a multi-day tour extremely expensive. Why can't some of these guides, budget aside, tangle with Get Your Guide and everybody else on acquiring because I'm assuming a multi-day tour would be a high ticket price. A multi-day tour might be in the thousands of dollars. So anything, and to me, and maybe I'm just wrong here, let's say it's $1,000. So anything short of $300 to acquire a customer, if you're paying 30% to Get Your Guide, that's a gamble I'd be willing to sort of make, at least 100 or 200, no?
Yeah, Get Your Guide and the OTAs are not really good at selling multi-day tours. There is, You've got one called Tour Radar, that's a sort of niche specialist in multi-day tours. That's all they do. So most of the OTAs are not good at selling multi-day tours. And most operators don't really list their multi-day tours on OTAs because on the whole, they can normally fill them themselves. And the cost of acquiring is different from every tour operator. I normally ran at about $60 to $100 to acquire a customer for a multi-day tour, but the multi-day tours retailing at $5,500 to $15,000, so it's nothing. So the OTAs are not multi-day tours more complex than a day tour, And if you think of the issues that operators have with OTAs selling day tours, once you lay a multi-day on, it's much more complex, so the customer has much more questions, and OTAs are not good at answering questions.
Sure. So then why is there such a problem overseas? Like, why is it so problematic? Why does everybody care about OTAs so much? Why aren't tour operators in Europe? I'll just say in Europe. Why are they so beholden to OTAs? Why can't they just focus on direct marketing, pay-per-click on Google, remarketing on social?
Yeah, that they are and they're not. You have to dig a bit deeper than that, than just say tour operators in Europe. Because you have to look at what product, what experience are they selling. So a tour operator, like one of my businesses is a rafting business, so watersports. So a rafting business out on a river in a rural location is a very different business from a tour operator who's selling a food tour in Rome or Paris or Naples, or selling the Louvre and museum tours in the city centres. My competition out in the rural areas of Scotland is nothing like the competition I'd get in the centre of Paris. Therefore, I can dominate direct bookings, whereas I'm in the centre of Paris with the best SEO in the world and a lot of spend. I'm competing against companies who can outspend me, out-engineer me, out-SEO me. So it just depends on your product selection and your experience, depending on how much you're going to have to rely on OTAs. And that comes to a really good point, what a lot of operators don't do, especially when they open up, when they're new. They don't spend enough time on product selection or experience selection, the default to what interests them or what fascinates them, without actually checking what the market is. Because if you're going to build another food tour in Rome on top of the 250 food tours that's already there, or the 6,000 Viator listings that are on for Rome for walking tours, you're going to have to do something special to stand out on that. But if you create a unique product in a different location, it's a lot easier to stand out. You may not get the same volume, but it's a lot easier to stand out and a lot easier to be profitable as well.
Hey everyone, we're going to take a quick break to talk about our sponsor for the month, the Von Mack Agency. Von Mack is a full-service digital marketing agency with a focus on tour and activity operators. They offer it all: SEO, websites, pay-per-clicks, logos, content writing. If it's online marketing, they got you covered. As we mentioned before, it's uber important to hire an agency that understands our industry, and the Von Mack Agency knows water sports. Trust me.
And they do all the shit that you don't want to do. They do all the shit that you're probably not very good at, and they are. Look, for listeners of the show, America herself is giving a free consult, all right? If nothing else, give her a shout, give her a call, take 30 minutes out of your day. More importantly, take 30 minutes out of her day so she can get you straight on your marketing needs.
That's right. What do you have to lose? Head to vonmackagency.com and go to the Contact Us page to get started. Again, vonmackagency.com. And most importantly, let them know you were sent by the AWG guys. All right, let's get back to the show. While all three of us were at the Arrival Conference in San Diego a few weeks ago, and one of the themes I kept hearing about is, these single operators that are trying to get to that next phase, basically firing themselves, hiring that next person, and scaling from there. Like, they just don't know how to take that next step. I heard that financing their business was a challenge. I heard that finding that next employee that they can actually delegate and can provide that same experience. So, Peter, walk us through. I mean, you have so much experience. You're a figurehead in the tours and activities community. Like, where would you start as a single operator ready to make that next move? Like, you have just enough money to maybe hire that second person. Like, where do you go from there? What are some things that you need to be thinking?
As a standalone operator wanting to scale, you have to make one decision first. What are you good at, and what do you want to spend the rest of your time doing? That's the number one decision, because you can't get that wrong. You get that wrong, you're going to get it messed up. So some operators are always going to be the best at operations and guiding. They're just brilliant at operations, looking after people and guiding. Other operators have a lean towards the business side. And if they didn't guide any customers anymore, they wouldn't be overly upset about that. So you've got to decide, you want to be in the operations or or do you want to be inside the business side of it? Because as you scale, you can't be in both. It's just, you just can't low across both. You need to bring in people. So you're going to bring somebody in. Are you bringing in somebody who's going to replace you in the operations and the guiding? Or are you bringing in someone who's going to replace you in the business side, free up all your time to run the operation and guiding? You don't get that correct, you're building from a broken foundation straight away.
I'd like to add to that. And I think, like, now say what you will about partners, but there's some studies such and so forth out there that says businesses with partners are 60% likelier to succeed. So nobody likes to give away equity. Everyone wants to keep their equity. But at the same point in time, you can have half a piece of a small pie, or 100% of a small pie, or 50% of a very larger piece of pie. So as you start to scale or possibly get into other niches related to your own, hopefully, like Peter said, he does rafting, but he does hiking. I'm assuming at some point, Pete, you're probably a pretty smart guy. You probably didn't give away a ton of equity. You probably hired somebody smart to execute for you, but he's 100% right. You have to have somebody that is very good at doing the things that you don't like to do. They have to be an executor for all the shit that you hate. And Pete, if you could tell me a little bit, do you agree, disagree? Did you have partners? Did you always try and hold on to equity? Like, what was your strategy scaling and not, diversifying and not giving away a bunch of equity or giving away?
I've tried it always with different businesses. So rafting business, when I took that on, first thing I did in the rafting business in day one was hire a couple of staff, because I didn't want to be running rafts down the river, because I knew that business had the ability to scale and be a decent cash flow business. I didn't want to be running rafts in a river, so I hired a couple of guides who I knew were operational really good. That freed up my time to work full time on the business side of it. And within weeks and months, we had 5 guys, 6 guys. So I've always learned, even though I'm trained as a guide and I've guided thousands and thousands of clients, my bent has always been on the business side. That's where I get excited more than guiding more clients. So I always replaced myself from the operations when I could to free up on the business side. With regards partners, I've had a Moroccan business where I brought partners in, another rafting business where I brought partners in. I've always struggled with partners. Got to put that up hand. I do agree with you. I think if you're scaling a business, seriously, you need a partner, right? And I'm quite happy to say I've always struggled with partners. Maybe my selection of partners has been rubbish, or me being too controlling, or maybe not ahead, or whatever it is.
My partners love me, man.
Yeah. Partners are a difficult thing to get right, but when you do get it right, your business is a better business. There is no doubt about that. A business with strong partners, 2 or 3, is going to be a stronger business than an individual. You are a liability as an individual. Me running businesses on my own in multiple countries as the sole director is a complete liability. Because if I get taken out, and some of the stuff I get up to, I could get taken out any of the time, and the businesses they're broken. You take a successful business and they'll be broken overnight if you haven't got partners in them. So it depends about how much you want to scale. You see tour operators all the time say, we want to scale a business. But scaling to one might mean $500,000 or $1 million. Scaling to another one might mean $25 million. Scaling to another one might mean $100 million operating in 60 countries. So you've got to decide what your ambition is to be able to lay down the foundations of scaling that business to it. But if I was building again, I would bring in partners. I'd just be better at the partners I brought in.
Yeah. It's one of the things that, like, we have one business where I have like equal, we have equal share. But when I started our first one, I knew how controlling I was. And I said, listen, we can chop up the pie however you guys want. I'm not a greedy person. I don't, I'm driven by passion first, money second, always. But I said, I am very controlling. And I am going to have control. However you guys want to figure this out, but I have to have the final say. I would rather die on a hill than give it up, even though it could be to my detriment sometimes. But still, so I feel you. I want to take a turn on this, and I want to bring up something we talked about at Arrival, which I thought was really awesome that you did during COVID. I was one of the people that that called you. I wasn't too worried about my business. I was actually probably one of the very few people that felt like I was going to do okay, that we were going to be okay. And we were, thank God. But I took you up on your offer only because I wanted to talk to you, because you seemed like a very interesting guy in the tourpreneur group. You seemed really smart. And I was like, man, if I can steal this guy's time for 20 minutes, like, I've got to steal it. I didn't want to steal it away from another operator. I just had to talk to you, but I thought it was really cool. So Pete offered up his time to all the people that were struggling during COVID in the sector. And he took his time. He looked into their businesses. He looked at their websites. You know, I don't, like, you and I didn't talk for that long. I think you like kind of just, you're just like, yeah, your website looks good. Your socials look good. You know, if you guys are strong drive-in market, you're probably going to be okay. So, I, first of all, thank you. And I appreciate that timeshare. You know, I mean, why did you do that?
A bit of giving back, but I'd been there before. I was operating in 2008 when the financial crash hit. And at that time, my business was exposed. 65% of the profit was coming in from corporate companies. So we lost 65% of our profit in 24 hours. Because when the financial crisis hit the UK and the banks went down, that corporate business went. So I had a rescue job to do back in 2008, which meant closing multiple sites, laying off multiple people. In hindsight, it was a great thing because I moved everything onto the cloud. I went on res systems in 2008. So a disaster that forced me to change a lot of my business processes, and the flexibility and resilience was my business. So I learned a lot of lessons in 2008. So when COVID hit, I thought I knew what was coming. I knew what was coming. I did not know 2 years of chaos was coming, but I knew what was coming that operators were going to have to deal with. So within a week, I had fixed everything that in my businesses I could deal with. I shut down what I knew I had to shut down. I sorted the finance within. I laid off people I had to lay off. That was all done within days. So my time was free basically to give back to the industry that I've spent all my life in and loved, and hopefully helped a few people structure the business in a way that if they're still standing today, they did well. I know many are not. I spoke to just under 250 operators. I've done a check on a lot of them. A lot of them are not here anymore. They've gone. But the ones that are still standing, outstanding job. They're still here after 2 years of chaos.
Yeah, actually, a majority of our partners on TripShock that left us during COVID were the single operators that we're talking about today. You know, they're in the best position to pivot because it's just themselves. You know, they can shut it down or pause the business and get a job until this all blows over and then come back. But, you know, that's an important part, like an important topic is that when you're making that decision, like a lot of tour operators, they might run tours Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then they work a 9-to-5 job for the rest of the week. And I hear one of your workshop, Kevin, one of the people in that workshop was saying, well, I got a job and I don't want to quit my job because I need that income, but I want to scale my tour business up. Well, you have to make a decision.
Yeah.
Either you're going to go with your tour business or you're going to do your job, because you're never going to be able to put all that time in. Now you could, start hiring people to replace yourself for your job, but you're never going to give it the time it needs unless you take that leap and really, because you can save a lot of money. You can do a lot of things with nothing. I mean, I scaled TripShock up with almost nothing. We didn't start getting bank financing till much later. We never took any VC. Most of it was just grind, literally, like finding ways to make things work. And that's kind of like one of the bigger messages here is money doesn't solve everything when you're trying to build your business. Like it actually makes you even more creative.
Yeah, you can't build a scale business. You can't build a scale tour operating business and hold down a job as well. It's just not going to happen. And you at some point, if it's your desire, if it's not your desire, that's fine. But if it's your desire, you got to grow a pair of balls and jump full into it and go. And if you've got bills to pay, and you will create bills to pay, there's no bigger incentive than to get you marketing and selling than seeing all the bills coming in. You've got to go out and create that money to pay them. And that's what this game is. If you want to be a business owner, that's the game you're in. Any question on that, you've got to question, is business really for you?
You just said one of Kevin's buzzwords, selling. Getting out there and selling. Kevin likes that.
Yeah, I do, because I think like I was like I didn't really go to like a lot of the sessions at this year's conference at Arrival, because I have been so focused on selling, like getting back to what it is. Like Greg, I've been, ever since this conversation started, like I had a revigor back on the phones. I've been answering phones. Steve is having, like, we're obviously recording. I've been listening to all the recordings of our staff, answer the conversations that they're having, the pain points they're having. And I get back on the phone. I'm like, shit, I forgot. I love selling. Well, 4 days into it, our phone rings so much, I realized how much I hate it. I'm like, oh my God, they're calling to ask me about Crab Island again. I can't be like a tourist that, like, like if you guys, like, I'll tell them in the middle of the funnel. I'm willing to take that phone conversation, but it's so important, and like, I want to kind of double back to what you guys are like talking about. And the thing is, like, if you got to use like whatever assets you have at your disposal. You got a wife, then, and you want to start a business. I was really lucky. My wife stayed working. She still works to this day, and she worked full time. It is not easy. And as Peter said, like, my wife works full time. I work 7 days a week on my business. I'll bring my kids to work with me. I've gone into things holding my baby in my hand, like, buying a boat or something like that. So it's like, if you're not 100% all in and you're worried about a safety net or something like this, like, your wife can work. Yeah, I see a lot of couples that are full-time in their business. And I see a lot of couples that have done what we do. Ben and Amber, friends of ours, Peter, that Ben been on the show, but they, his wife worked actually for Trip Shock. She worked at Trip Shock answering phones. So there's a myriad of things that you can do to figure out how you can scale. But to Pete's point, if you are worried about, if you're making a decision for your like, let's say, a dock rent for water sports, we have to rent docks. So if you're worried about your dock rent versus your fucking mortgage, man, that's a very, very difficult place to be. And it's going to be nearly impossible to scale if you have to make those two decisions, unless you are willing to live on your boat and you're willing to burn the boats. At the end of the day, you have to be able to burn your escape boats. You have to burn your boats. You have to burn your bridges. You have to have only one way, and that's up, and that's vertical. So
one of the things I keep seeing time and time again for operators is they haven't tested their market. They don't actually know what their market is, what the total addressable size of their market is. And I'm not talking the global market, because if you're an operator in town X in Florida, you've got an addressable market of Y, of the incoming people in a certain radius around you. So operators haven't really spent a lot of time looking at their total addressable market to let them know what is available for them to hit. What they do spend a lot of time on and money is developing tours and developing great experiences. And I'm not criticising that, because that's the game we're in. That's fantastic. But I've seen operators spend up to a year and a lot of money developing a fantastic experience without finding out if the market wants it or tests it. Whereas you throw a couple of $100 on PPC, Google ads or Facebook ads or whatever, just make the tour up. You don't need to build the thing. You just need to take it out your brain, stick it on some marketing and see if it sells. And if it sells, well, start building quickly. And if it doesn't sell, you've just saved yourself a shitload of cash and time. And it's as much focus that is applied to tour building and tour experiences in today's digital world has to be applied to marketing and sales. The same amount of effort, skill, innovation, ballsiness that people apply to their tours, they need to get it in their head that needs to go to marketing and sales as well. And if it's not them, well, they need someone in the team that can do that for them.
Man, Pete, I love, man, I'm so happy you came on this show, man. I really do, man. Like, the things you say, man, they like rhyme with things that happen in my business and in my head. Like, I've only been in business for 5 years. So to have a guy like you, you've been in business, God, 40 years going on. And just, I just appreciate you giving all the advice that you do and being an advocate for tours and operators. I try to be that as well. Even though I've only been in business for 5 years, I try and share with people the knowledge that I have. But I just want to thank you for taking your time during COVID, for taking your time to come on the show and the advocacy and man, every success and accolade that you have, man, you absolutely deserve. You're a smart guy, man. How can people reach out to you and how can people find you?
Easiest place is LinkedIn. I have got a website, petersyme.com, but to be honest, LinkedIn's better because it acts as a big database. And when we're on LinkedIn, how many tour operators use LinkedIn to get business? Very few. It is a gold mine of corporate business, high-paying clients. Hundreds of millions of them are on LinkedIn, but it's the least used social media. But I diverse. The easiest place to get a hold of me is on LinkedIn.
Man.
I see you hiding out in the Facebook groups every now and then.
Every now and again, I drop back into Facebook.
I see a good comment from Peter.
Yeah,
Especially when it's OTA
or if it's related, or beer related. Having a pint. Anytime there's like a pint offered, he like chimes in. He's like, "Oh, I'm in for a pint." Man, you are my brother from another mother, man. Two good-looking young guys like this. I love it. I got to come to Scotland and fucking hang out with you. Uninvited. I'm just going to show up at your door.
It's evening in Scotland. You always got to have a beer in the evening, don't you?
Yeah, that's right.
Well, hey, so make sure you head over to our Water Sport and Tour Professionals Facebook group. Join that group. I believe Peter's in there. If not, then he's going to be jumping in. Peter, you're in that group, right?
I'm in that group. I've not been commenting, but I will jump in if there's questions there, sure.
Yeah, for sure. And if you haven't, get on there and review our podcast, please.
God, fucking
Spotify,
man.
Apple. Come on now. Get some
man.
We need some reviews here.
We live and die by these damn reviews, man. I think we got like one from Brian. Like I'm going to call out on my personal friends that are in that group that own businesses that have not given me a fucking review. Like, come on, man.
So, you know, these other podcasts that I'm on, I get an email afterwards. We're going to start doing this, Kevin. And they basically like solicit me for reviews afterward. We need to start doing that. So, Peter, you might be getting a review for us.
Yeah,
or
do that.
Email from us.
Get an email going out asking for people and then do 15 follows. Here's 15 follow-ups. People going about business. An operator said today, we haven't got time to do the follow-ups. How can you not have time not to do follow-ups of inquiry? We chase 15 times before we start getting up worried about it. Chase. Close the deal.
Fucking that's right, man. Ask for the sale, motherfuckers. Ask for the sale.
All right. Well, hey, everyone. Thanks for listening. As always, keep it awkward.